Hashtag the 7 things that vanish first when society fractures. Stop scrolling. What I'm about to show you isn't conspiracy theory. It's pattern recognition across 15 major societal collapses in the last century, and the mathematics are absolutely merciless. Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Everything you think is permanent is actually conditional. Your bank account, your property rights, your ability to move freely, these aren't guarantees. They're privileges the system extends to you as long as the system itself is functioning. The moment pressure builds, everything you thought was yours becomes negotiable. Let me show you exactly what disappears first when the fractures start showing. Not theories, not speculation. Documented, verifiable patterns that repeat with mathematical precision every single time. Hashtag disappearance number 1. Access to your own money. March 2013, Cyprus. People go to bed on a Thursday night with money in their banks. They wake up Friday morning and the banks are closed. Not for a day, for 2 weeks. When they finally reopen, there's a new rule. You can withdraw €300 per day maximum. That's it. But here's the part that kills you. This wasn't a bank robbery. This was legal. The government passed emergency legislation overnight. Your money was still yours on paper, but in practice, you couldn't touch it. The mathematics are simple and brutal. Cyprus banks held €68 billion in deposits. The government needed €10 billion for a bailout. Solution: take 47.5% from accounts over €100,000. Not a tax, a stability levy. Legal, documented, permanent. Now you're thinking, that's Cyprus. Small economy. Wouldn't happen here. Lebanon, 2019. Same pattern. Banks implement informal capital controls. You can't access your full balance. Your life savings exist in a database, but you can't withdraw them. People with $100,000 in the bank can pull out $200 per week. Do the math. At that rate, it takes 10 years to access your own money. Greece, 2015. Daily withdrawal limit, €60. ATMs run dry within hours. The money exists digitally, but physically, it's gone. Your wealth is an entry in a ledger you can't access. Here's what nobody tells you. This happens in developed economies with functioning democracies and rule of law. It happens because in a crisis, liquidity becomes a strategic resource. Your personal needs become secondary to systemic stability. The mechanism is always the same. Step 1. Temporary emergency measures for financial stability. Step 2. Temporary becomes permanent. Step 3. By the time restrictions lift, inflation has destroyed what you couldn't access anyway. You're not robbed. You're technically still the owner. But ownership without access is just a comfortable fiction. Wait, here's the real killer. They don't need to confiscate anything. They just need to control the flow. And in a digital economy, flow control is just code. One legislative session, one emergency decree, and suddenly your lifetime of savings is behind a wall you can't climb. Hashtag disappearance number 2. Freedom of movement. This one shocks people because it seems impossible right up until it happens. Wuhan, China, January 23, 2020. Population, 11 million. At 10 a.m., the city operates normally. By 2 p.m., every exit is blocked. Highways, airports, train stations, sealed. 11 million people, locked in place with 4 hours' notice. You're thinking pandemic, exceptional circumstances. Okay, let's go broader. Venezuela, 2016 onwards. The government implements border controls. Citizens need special permission to leave. Not everyone gets it. Your passport is valid, but the exit permit isn't. You're legally free to travel, except you're literally not allowed to leave. East Germany until 1989, 166 people shot trying to cross their own border. Argentina, 2001, Corralito, restricting people from leaving with their money. India, 1965, passport impounding during conflicts. The pattern is identical. Crisis creates justification. Justification creates control. Control becomes normal. Here's the mathematics. Modern cities require approximately 2,000 calories per person per day. A city of 5 million needs 10 million meals daily. That food arrives on trucks through roughly 20 to 30 main arteries. Close those arteries, and the city has 72 hours before panic sets in. Now imagine you're the government during a crisis. You face a choice. Let people flee which creates refugee chaos and spreads panic, or lock it down, maintain order, and deal with one contained problem instead of 50 scattered ones. Which option is easier to control? The answer is obvious, and that's exactly why movement restrictions happen first. But here's what kills you. It doesn't start with roadblocks. It starts with recommendations. Stay home if possible. Avoid unnecessary travel. Then comes tiered restrictions. Essential workers can move, others should stay put. Then comes enforcement. Checkpoints. Papers. Digital tracking. By the time you realize you're locked in, the cage was built in slow motion while everyone watched. Hashtag disappearance number 3, supply chain reliability. This is where most people's understanding completely fails. They see full shelves and think the system is stable. They're looking at the result, not the mechanism. The reality: modern supply chains operate on just-in-time delivery with approximately 3 to 7 days. Sri Lanka, 2022. Fuel shortages cascade into food shortages. Shelves empty in days. Not because food doesn't exist, but because trucks can't deliver it. The food is somewhere, but somewhere might as well be nowhere if there's no transportation. The mathematics are merciless. A typical Western city consumes its entire food supply in 72 hours. Restock trucks arrive daily. If deliveries stop for 3 days, every single shelf is empty. Not mostly empty, completely bare. UK, September 2021. Not a collapse, just a shortage of truck drivers. Within 1 week, gas stations run dry, supermarkets implement purchase limits. Panic buying creates artificial scarcity that becomes real scarcity. Here's what people miss. The system doesn't fail catastrophically. It degrades gradually, then suddenly. Week 1 looks like minor inconvenience. Certain items out of stock. Week 2 looks like concerning shortages. Week 3 looks like crisis. Week 4 looks like breakdown. And once the cascade starts, stopping it is nearly impossible because every link in the chain depends on every other link. Fuel trucks need parts. Parts need delivery. Delivery needs fuel. When one link breaks, the whole circle collapses. The average household has about 14 days of food. Optimistic households maybe 30 days. After that, everyone is dependent on the supply chain functioning. If it's not functioning, those 14 or 30 days become a countdown timer with no extension. Hashtag disappearance number 4, rule of law consistency. This one breaks people's brains because it contradicts everything they believe about stable societies. The truth: laws aren't absolute. They're conditional based on circumstances. And in a crisis, circumstances change the rules faster than you can adapt to them. Argentina, 2001. The government passes laws that convert dollar deposits to pesos at an artificial exchange rate. Overnight, your savings lose 70% of their value. Legal? Yes. Theft? Also yes. But it's legislative theft, which the pattern repeats everywhere. Iceland, 2008. Greece, 2015. Zimbabwe, multiple times. Turkey, ongoing. The mechanism is always the same. Emergency powers get invoked. Normal legal protections get suspended temporarily. And during that suspension, rules change in ways that would be impossible during normal times. Here's what kills you. It's not lawlessness. It's too many laws happening too fast. Emergency decrees. Executive orders. Overnight regulations. You go to sleep with one set of rules and wake up to a completely different framework, and all of it is perfectly legal because crisis creates legislative flexibility. Property rights become suggestions. Contracts become negotiable. Agreements become subordinate to public necessity. Think about this. Your money in the bank is legally the bank's liability to you. During normal times, that's a solid claim. During crisis, that liability can be restructured, delayed, converted, or written down. All legally. All documented. All happening while you watch. The mathematics are simple. In stable times, law protects individual rights because protecting individuals maintains stability. In crisis, law protects collective stability because individual rights become subordinate to system survival. Your legal claim to your property is only as strong as the system's ability to enforce it. When the system is under pressure, enforcement priorities shift. And when they shift, your rights shift with them. Hashtag disappearance number 5, privacy and anonymity. Every crisis in modern history follows the same trajectory. Emergency measures require data collection. Data collection becomes surveillance. Surveillance becomes permanent infrastructure. Post 9/11 United States. Patriot Act passes in 45 days. Temporary emergency powers. Except they're renewed repeatedly and become permanent. Warrantless surveillance becomes normalized. Your privacy isn't eliminated. It's balanced against security needs. COVID-19, globally, contact. Here's the mathematics. Tracking 100 million people was technologically impossible in 1990. Today it's trivial. Your phone constantly broadcasts your location. Your purchases create a complete profile of your behavior. Your browsing history reveals your thoughts. Your social media shows your connections. This data exists whether there's a crisis or not. But during crisis, access to that data changes. Warrants become optional. Oversight becomes flexible. Your digital footprint becomes an open book for anyone with authority to look. And once that infrastructure exists, it doesn't get dismantled. It gets repurposed. Today's public health tracking becomes tomorrow's financial monitoring, becomes next year's social control mechanism. Hashtag disappearance number 6. Energy autonomy. Texas, February 2021. The power grid fails during a winter storm. 4 million people without electricity. Not in a developing nation, in America. Temperature outside, -2 degrees Fahrenheit. Temperature inside homes after 24 hours, 40 degrees Fahrenheit. After 48 hours, freezing. People died. Not from the storm, from the grid failure. Because in modern society, energy isn't a luxury, it's life support. South Africa, 2023, ongoing. Load shedding. Rolling blackouts that last 8 to 12 hours daily. Not temporary emergency, permanent condition. Businesses close. Economy contracts. Society adapts by degrading. The mathematics are brutal. Modern electrical grids operate with minimal excess capacity. Demand spikes or supply disruptions create immediate failures. And when the grid goes down, everything connected to it stops functioning. Water treatment plants, electric pumps. Sewage systems, electric pumps. Gas stations, electric pumps. Hospitals, backup generators with fuel that runs out. Communication networks, battery backups lasting 4 to 8 hours. The cascade is predictable. Electricity fails, water pressure drops within 6 hours, sewage backs up within 12 hours, fuel pumps don't work, hospitals run on generators until fuel depletes, comma. Hashtag disappearance number 7. Social cohesion. This is the one that kills you because it's invisible until it's everywhere. Societies don't collapse from external pressure. They fracture from internal stress. And that stress doesn't build gradually. It detonates suddenly when trigger conditions align. Yugoslavia, 1990s. Neighbors who lived peacefully together for decades suddenly became tribal enemies. Not because of ancient hatreds, because resource stress activated identity divisions that were dormant during prosperity. Rwanda, 1994. Syria, 2011. Lebanon, 2019. Venezuela, ongoing. The pattern is identical. Economic stress, political dysfunction, resource scarcity, then tribalism. Here's the mathematics nobody wants to face. Social cohesion is a luxury good purchased with prosperity. When prosperity ends, cohesion evaporates. People don't become worse, they become tribal. And tribal means my group versus your group, my family versus yours, my survival versus yours. The breakdown follows predictable stages. Stage 1. Minor tensions. People complain but cooperate. Stage 2. Visible divisions. Groups start segregating. Stage 3. Active hostility. Cooperation becomes betrayal. Stage 4. Violence becomes normal. And it happens faster than you think possible. Weimar Germany went from functioning democracy to tribal nightmare in less than 15 years. Yugoslavia collapsed in 18 months once the trigger pulled. Syria went from stable dictatorship to tribal warfare in under a year. The trigger is always resource scarcity combined with political illegitimacy. When people are comfortable, they tolerate differences. When they're struggling, differences become threats. Hashtag the final calculation. Here's what you need to understand. None of these 7 disappearances happen in isolation. They cascade. Financial crisis triggers movement restrictions. Movement restrictions break supply chains. Broken supply chains create energy shortages. Energy shortages eliminate privacy. The only question is whether you understand the mechanics before they become your reality. The window for preparation isn't closed, but it's closing. And windows don't close gradually. They slam shut while people watch and wonder why nobody warned them. Someone just did. What you do with that information is your choice. But don't pretend you didn't know. The patterns are documented. The mathematics are clear. The only variable is whether you're looking at them honestly or comfortably. Choose wisely.